All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are taking the playbook from some of the world's most elite negotiators. We're talking intelligence officers, and we're applying it to the world of dating. We're going to turn these high-stakes psychological tactics into a super practical guide for building charisma and, a real connection.
So let's just dive right in with a question. What is the secret link between a spy who's trying to get sensitive information and someone who just makes an amazing first impression on a date? Well, it all comes down to the art of influence.
And this quote, it really nails it. True influence, whether you're in a high-stakes negotiation or a brand new romance, it's not about control. Not at all. It's about creating this environment where connection and agreement, they just feel like something you discovered together.
But you can't just snap your fingers and have that shared discovery happen. Before any kind of influence can take place, you've got to build a solid foundation. And it all starts with creating a sense of psychological safety, making the other person feel totally secure and in control.
Look at this. This is the behavioral change stairway model, and it shows you the exact sequence. And here's the key. You cannot skip steps. It's a ladder. You have to start with active listening. Then you build up to empathy, then rapport. And only then can you even hope to have influence and see any kind of behavioral change. It's a process. You got to respect it.
So let's build on that. A lot of people think charisma is just this magical thing you're born with. It's not. It's a skill. It's a tool you can learn and use strategically. You might use focus charisma to make someone feel like they're the only person in the room, or authority charisma to be decisive, or kindness charisma to create real emotional comfort. The whole trick is knowing which tool to pull out of the toolbox for any given situation.
Okay, so with that foundation in place, let's talk about those first critical moments. People often make up their minds about you in like 90 seconds. And in that tiny window, up to 90% of communication is nonverbal. What you do is so much more important than what you say. 76%. What is this number? Well, in speed dating studies, this is how much more likely you are to be chosen for a future date just by adopting an expansive, open posture. That is a massive, massive advantage before you've even said a single word.
And I mean, when you look at this chart, the difference is it's staggering. Taking up more space, projecting confidence with your body, it dramatically shifts the outcome. This isn't just a little edge, okay? This is a total game changer.
So how do you actually project this power and confidence? Well, it boils down to these key signals. Postural expansiveness. Think of it as the big gorilla stance. You want to minimize all those nervous movements, like fidgeting. And then you master what's called the triple threat, using your hands, your posture, and your eye contact all together to build this immediate sense of trust and confidence.
But, and this is a huge but, power without warmth just comes off as arrogant or, intimidating. You have to balance it. You signal warmth by fronting. That means aiming your torso right at them. You lean in to show you're interested. And you use purposeful eye contact, not to stare them down, but to connect during those key moments, like when you both agree on something or share a laugh.
Okay, so you've absolutely nailed the nonverbals. You've built that initial connection. Now it's time to build on that rapport using some really powerful verbal tools. These are designed to make the other person feel deeply, deeply understood.
The first tool is mirroring. And it's so simple, it almost feels like cheating. You just repeat the last couple of words of what they said, usually with a kind of inquisitive tone. So if they say, "I'm really into rock climbing," you can just say, "Rock climbing?" It's just this gentle little nudge that encourages them to tell you more without feeling like they're being interrogated. Next up is labeling. This is where you verbally call out an emotion you're sensing from them. You always use a softener, like "it seems like" or "it sounds like." So you could say, "It seems like you're really passionate about that," or "it sounds like that was frustrating." Just naming the emotion validates their entire experience. It can diffuse negativity, and it just makes them feel understood on a much, much deeper level.
Now let's get into some of the more advanced techniques, literally pulled from the world of intelligence gathering. It's called elicitation, and it's the art of getting information without firing off a bunch of direct questions. It's about creating a conversation where they actually want to share with you.
And here are some of the key techniques to do it. You could intentionally state something incorrect, because people have this natural desire to correct the record. Or you could play naive about a topic you know they're an expert in, triggering their urge to teach you. Each one of these uses a slightly different psychological lever to get them to open up.
This one is particularly powerful. Informational altruism. Think of it as strategic vulnerability.
By sharing something personal and maybe a little sensitive about yourself, you create this social obligation for them to do the same. You're basically giving them permission for mutual disclosure, which is the absolute fast track to building real trust.
Okay, now for the final phase. You've built rapport, you've made a deep connection. So how do you translate that into a mutual agreement and a path forward? Whether that's planning a second date, or maybe even navigating a difficult conversation.
So this next part is going to feel completely backward at first, but you've got to trust me. You have to get comfortable with the word no. Pushing for a yes just makes people defensive. But if you give them the explicit permission to say no, it makes them feel safe, it makes them feel in control, and, paradoxically, it makes them way more likely to collaborate with you and agree.
Once you've created that safety, you use what are called calibrated questions. These are open-ended questions that always start with how or what. They literally transfer the responsibility for finding a solution over to them. A question like, how can we make that work, forces them to think about how to do it, giving them ownership of the final outcome. It becomes their idea.
And this slide? This is a super simple system for when you're in a tough spot, the Newt job system. That's name, understand, transform. First, you name the fear or the conflict out loud. Then you seek to understand their emotion with empathy. And finally, you transform the situation by focusing on specific behaviors, not personal attacks. Name, understand, transform. Easy. And this really brings us to the ultimate goal of all of this, which is to elevate the other person. This is known as the Pygmalion effect. By assigning someone a positive label, calling them generous or thoughtful or ambitious, you create this expectation that they will subconsciously try to live up to. You're basically communicating your belief in their best self.
So, if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. These tools are not for manipulation, they are for understanding. The goal isn't to control someone, it's to build a connection so real, so genuine, that they want to move forward with you. So the real question is, how are you going to use these ideas to elevate your very next conversation?